and welcome to Homeschool Advice with Laura Geis. I'm Laura Geis, author of the Homeschool Toolkit and founder of HomeschoolAdviceOnline.com. Well, this month we've been talking about how do you choose the right curriculum for you. And it's a big subject, so I'm taking 3 weeks to answer the question. And if you remember, a couple weeks ago, we talked about step number 1, which was begin with the end in mind. Or think about what you want your students to know before you try to choose a curriculum, so that you'll be able to choose something that will get you where you want to go. Then last week we talked about figuring out what your options are. Looking at the catalogs, going to the conventions, looking on the internet, and narrowing your choices to 3 in each subject area. No more than 3. So now hopefully you have a list of each subject that you're going to teach your children with no more than 3 curriculum choices beside each of those subject areas. Now, how are you going to decide between those 3? What I'd like to do this week is give you 10 questions you can ask that will help you decide which one is the best for you. After you answer these 10 questions, it should be pretty obvious which curriculum choice is going to be the best for you. So here are the questions. And if you can't jot these down right now, don't worry about it. I'm going to put those on my blog this week, which is at www.homeschooladviceonline.com. You can also find them in my book, The Homeschool Toolkit, which is available on Amazon.com. And next month I'm coming out with a homeschool startup kit, and it will also contain these questions. So don't worry if you can't write them down, while I'm speaking right now. Number 1, for what age group is this appropriate, and can I combine several different grade levels? If you're teaching more than one child, that becomes more important. Maybe you could teach a couple together if that curriculum allows you to do that. And make sure, if you have a 3rd grader, that you're not looking at a curriculum that's for a 7th grader. Number 2, how much teacher preparation time is involved in using this curriculum? Be really honest with yourself. At the beginning of the year, or if you're new to homeschooling, you go into it really gung-ho and you don't mind spending the extra time, but as the year wears on and you find that, yeah, the laundry still needs to get done, I still need to fix the meals, you might find yourself in a time crunch sometimes, so don't get hooked into something that's going to take too much time. So be really honest with yourself about how much time you can devote to, making flashcards or whatever that curriculum needs to be ready to use. So know how much time it's going to take. Question number 3, is the curriculum designed to be completed in 1 year? Some homeschooling curriculum, I've had a grammar program that lasts for 3 years, a spelling program that lasts, from 3rd grade to high school. So just be aware of how long that curriculum will take. You don't want to buy a science curriculum and realize, after 9 weeks that you finish the book and you don't have any more science lessons for the year. So just be aware of that. Question number 4, how many lessons are contained in this curriculum? That's an important question when you're planning out your teaching schedule. If your science book has 36 lessons, then obviously you're going to need to complete 1 lesson a week, because most school years are 36 weeks or 180 days. So completing 1 a week, you would be able to finish that curriculum in a year. If you don't think you can do that, if you're going to do science every other week, maybe you could spend 2 years on that curriculum. So just that question will help you know how you're going to space out your curriculum and how often you're going to have to teach that subject. Question number 5, is a particular worldview endorsed in this curriculum? As homeschoolers, some of us choose to homeschool so that we can pass on our faith, our values to our children, and if your curriculum is kind of going against that, well, that's not doing anyone any good, so just be aware. Question number 6, how does this program evaluate student learning? By evaluate student learning, I just mean, how do you know your kids are learning what they're being taught? Does the program use testing? Do they ask your kids to do a lot of writing? Is there a discussion based? And then think about your kids. If you have a kid who hates to write, do you really want a curriculum where they have to write a paragraph every day? Well, maybe you do if you want to work on the writing skills, but maybe that would really be a struggle to do that every day. So just look at how does that curriculum evaluate whether or not your kids are learning. Question number 7, must I complete the lessons in sequence? I can't tell you how many times when I've worked through a science curriculum, the plant unit always seems to come in the middle of January for some reason. And so most of the time, I swap things around so that we can study plants in the spring, maybe when we're planting the garden. Obviously a math curriculum, you're probably going to have to go through it step by step because math is just a subject that works that way. But sometimes you might want to switch things around a little bit, so just notice if there's any flexibility like that, if that's important to you. Question number 8, may I see a sample lesson plan? When you look at a sample lesson plan, it's really going to give you a feel for what's this going to look like every day when I'm actually teaching it to my student. How long is it going to take? Is this thing scripted where I'm just supposed to read these things and ask my student the questions, or do they just give me, kind of an outline and I'm going to need to fill that in? So I recommend definitely looking at a lesson plan from the beginning of the curriculum, and then I like to skip to the middle of the book and look at about a week's worth of lesson plans so that you get a feel for is this consistent throughout, and just what's it going to look like every day. That's why I say look at a sample lesson plan. Question number 9, may I see the scope and sequence for this curriculum? Scope and sequence is just a fancy way of saying what is this teaching and when is it going to be taught, in what order. And if you buy a curriculum that is, maybe there was a homeschooling mom out there and she couldn't find a science curriculum she liked, so she wrote one on her own. Some of those are absolutely wonderful. They probably won't have a scope and sequence included, but if you buy from a major curriculum publisher, they will probably have a scope and sequence, and you can look at that and see exactly what they're going to teach and in what order. Sometimes that's helpful. And finally, question number 10, exactly what materials do I need in order to teach this curriculum? You want to make sure you get everything you need. Some curriculum providers are notorious for it. You buy the student book and then, you're going to need the teacher's guide to go with that, and you want to do tests. Well, you've got to buy another book for the test, and you mean you want the answers to the test? Well, you're going to have to buy the test answer key, and you need flashcards to do this, but that's a separate purchase also. So sometimes what looks like a small purchase on the surface, as you get deeper and deeper into it, you've got to keep adding things on to really make it work well. So just be aware to ask, is this absolutely everything I need to teach this curriculum? So I hope those 10 questions help. Remember, you can find them on my website, in my book, The Homeschool Toolkit, or if you wait until July, I'm going to have a homeschool startup kit ready for you, and those questions will be in there. I hope this helps. I'll see you next week.